So let's talk about some fights right now. I gotta tell you, I'm more than a little upset about what's going on with Jon Jones. I am. Jon Jones is probably my favorite fighter. I don't think there's a guy that I like more than Jon Jones. I do like to watch Conor fight. I mean, I do like to watch guys like, there are some guys like to fight. But something about Jon Jones, the way he fights, the length, the fact that he's really never in trouble. He to me is the best fighter I've ever seen, and I think a lot of people feel that same way. Dana White himself called Jon Jones the greatest of all time last week. And that's very high praise from somebody. Now, you would think that Jon Jones is filthy rich, right? He's been the UFC champ for a while. He's been the UFC champ for a very long time. He's probably got some endorsement deals. You would think that UFC is paying him very, 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 very well. But as we find out this week, the UFC, which is $1 billion company, is actually not paying its fighters very well at all. Which is surprising to me. When you look at it, there's a saying in business. Warren Buffett, I love to use it all the time. Warren Buffett likes to invest in companies that have a moat around them. And when he talks about the moat, what he's really talking about is he's talking about a barrier of resistance around a business. So if you're going to open a business, you want to be able to open a business that other people can't come in and compete with you right away. So you look at Geico, for instance. It's incredibly expensive to start an insurance company. So you're on TV all the time and you're seeing Geico and maybe 2 or 3 other companies, and that's it. There aren't 150,000 companies out there that can come out and really compete with Geico, because Geico has another level of money. They've got all that money to back up their insurance. They've got all that money to advertise. That is a huge barrier of entry. That is the moat that exists around Geico. UFC, I always thought, had this big moat around them because they're paying their fighters well and blah, 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 and et cetera and so on. But the most important thing is they're not paying their fighters very well at all. And this has come to light this week because Jon Jones was trying to put together a fight against Francis Ngannou, who's a heavyweight. He was trying to put together a super fight. He has learned through watching all these other guys, well, Conor in particularly. Conor puts together these super fights all the time that people want to see and gets paid a lot more money. Conor McGregor's last fight, which wasn't a super fight, it was just a return against Cowboy Serrano, who he wiped the floor with in 87 seconds. Conor got paid $3 million from the UFC for that fight. $3 million. That's a good payday, actually. So how does that compare against Jon Jones? Well, we'll get into that in just one second. Let's talk about what happened, though. Dana White was asked a question in a press conference about Jon Jones making the super fight. Dana White said it's not going to happen right now. Jon shouldn't fight at that weight. And the money he asked for was ridiculous. He was asking for boxing money or something along those lines. Jon Jones took that very personally, extremely personally. And he actually made a comment saying that he was not happy and that did not happen the way Dana White said it happened. And then he took to Twitter. And over the course of a few days, and I think social media kills all of us, but over the course of a few days, this is the approach that Jon Jones took. His first tweet was, and I try to get these in order, and there are some tweets in between too, so I left some things out that didn't really they weren't pertinent, just so you know this isn't the order of the tweets. I don't want to be misleading here. If you're wondering, I'm not fighting with the UFC. I'm not mad at Dana or beefing. I'm just surprised he went that route. I said my piece. I'm over it. So he is saying, okay, Dana said that I said these things. I didn't say it. I'm surprised he said that. He approached it that way, but you know what? Whatever. I'm over it. That's what he says. Now, hours later, he says, I'm not going to give up hope the way I'm taking the whole thing. They don't want to put the budget for a Jon Jones heavyweight move up. They should have just said that instead of lying on me. I think it's unfair. It was unnecessary. So he's saying, I understand you don't have the money right now because there's no live gate. So you don't have the money right now to pay me to go up to the next weight division, weight class. So yeah, okay, whatever. I'll just kind of let it go. He's basically having a conversation with himself. Somebody tweets to him, well, wouldn't you have the text though too? Because Jon Jones is saying there are no texts. I mean, the Dana can't prove that. I never text that. So Jon Jones replies and says, there are no texts. So now he's getting a little bit mad. So he's taking a little bit of heat on social media. He's getting a little bit mad. People are under his skin, and he's starting to respond a little more angry. At no point did I ever demand anything from you, Dana. This is his response. I simply asked for a super fight and asked to be compensated for it. You are the one who started taking negotiations publicly and showing the world how much you've been withholding from your athletes the whole time. Now you can see that these texts are starting to get personal. Jon Jones is absolutely positively taking what has happened personal now. Now, to me, as far as I know, there's been no interaction between he and Dana White at this point. He's just starting to get angry, and this is probably happening because there are voices in his head around him, as well as the voices on social media that are calling him a sucker. Guy says, "You're hurting yourself more than the UFC, brother, if you actually quit." And he says, "I hurt myself every time I walk out there and take a punch in the head. I don't feel my pay is worth it anymore." Well, okay. So Jon Jones is the longest reigning champion I can remember. I mean, he's been champ forever. He is an unbeatable force to me. I mean, and not just to me, he's undefeated. He's literally unbeatable. Jon Jones can only beat himself by doing stupid shit. That's basically what it comes down to. Jon Jones is also not paid at the same level Conor McGregor is. And I was shocked to find this out. Conor McGregor's made an average of $3 million over the last 3 or 4 fights he's had. Jon Jones has averaged, can you guess it? Jon Jones has averaged about $500,000 for each fight that he's fight over the last 4 fights. That is a huge difference. There is going to be animosity that is built up when you have a guy who just fought a fight and doesn't even have a belt against a nobody. No offense to Cowboy Cerrone, he's been fighting for a long time, but that's not a big name guy. He's fighting against a nobody. I did it again. You see that? He's fighting against a nobody, and he's getting paid $3 million. And Jon Jones, who is the greatest, maybe the greatest champion that UFC has ever seen, is making only $500,000 every time he fights. He only fights twice a year. So, okay, I get it. He's making $1 million. But he's right. He's right. He made a couple of other comments saying the NFL takes care of their players better. Well, compared to what he's making, he's right. He's absolutely right. There's going to be fallout from this. There's going to be huge fallout from this, and I think somebody might see this as a sign of weakness. Somebody might see this as a moat you can jump over and start a new promotion and say, you know what? We can get a lot of these guys. We could talk to a Jon Jones whose contract is coming up. You could talk to a Conor McGregor and bring these guys over and say, hey, Conor, you were making $3 million over there. I'll pay you $5 million over here. You think any of these guys need the UFC brand? If you start bringing over brand name fighters to other places, then there will be another UFC. This is going to be a problem. Now, I don't know. Maybe Jon Jones retires and that's it. He's done. Maybe he says, you know what? I've made $7 million in earnings, and maybe he's making a decent amount of money off of some sponsorships from whomever. I don't know what he's making from that, but maybe he's got maybe he's got a business that he opened up that I don't know about. I don't know any of that. I just know that this is a fighter that's frustrated with the amount of money that he's making, and it certainly seems like he's going to walk away. Now, I do have one last thing to show you. This is Jon Jones's Twitter page. He apparently has said he is giving up the UFC title, but he's had a few days to change the belt and get it off of there, and he hasn't done it yet. So maybe his attitude is, hey, I was a champ for a long time. I'm leaving that up there. I'm still a champ. Or maybe he's saying, I'm not walking away yet. I just want to see if I can get more money. And if that's the plan here, it's a pretty strong move. I got to give him some credit.